Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Today, I'm joined by a good friend of mine, Robb Antequera. How you doing today, man?
How you doing there, Ken? Thank you for having me on the show. Really appreciate it and really excited to be here to talk to you. You know what I'm saying? Been talked to you twice already on the House of Screams, and we had a good time there. So looking to return the favor and just have a good time with you on your show.
See, and that's what I'm so excited about because, I've had Candy on the show and then she was kind enough to invite me over. And I still got to get the rest of the crew over here, man. So I'm looking at you guys. You know who you are. I need you here.
Yes.
Let's start there. That's how you and I met, was the House That Screams, the podcast that you are a member of. And you're a permanent panel member on there, actually. And the first time we had talked about Halloween 2018. The second time I was there, we went in a little bit of a different direction with Salt Lake City Punk, SLC Punk. Not really your cup of tea, but for Candy's birthday, I know that you rocked that out a little bit for her. So it's really cool to be able to bring you on now and talk about horror movies, because we did talk about Halloween 2018, but this guy right here, guys, he is a busy fucking guy. He is the cinema drunkie. He grew up in New York, Brooklyn, New York, raised on Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. My boy was watching Bloodsport, comic books, Saturday morning cartoons. He also is the host of the podcast, The Action Drunkies, as well as a writing contributor to the Ultimate Action Movie Club, the Film Combat Syndicate, and his own personal blog, The Cinema Drunkie. So like I said, Rob, when I said this guy's fucking busy, this guy is fucking busy. So everything he does is amazing. You can follow him on Twitter. I have all his social media links down here. Make sure you're subscribing to the podcast and check out the stuff that he does. You should be subscribed to the House That Screams by now anyway, because of the amount that we've been doing this together. So, man, what I got to know, because usually I talk about certain things, but with you, there's so much here. What is a day in the life of Rob like, man?
Oh, it's a pretty much a doozy. When I'm not trying to coordinate, with my own podcast, The Action Drunkies, like you said, with my co-host, my brother from another, Mac the All-Star, who is also a member of the House of Screams podcast.
Mac's another one. Mac and Sean especially. I got to get them on here, man.
Yeah. Mac is really excited to come on here. I was talking to him about it. I was like, yeah, we definitely, gotta hook you two up so you can get on here. Other than that, and then going back and forth with the House That Screams, I'm sitting there trying to get some screener copies of the newest Scott Adkins film. As a matter of fact, I got to email a PR person to get the newest Scott Adkins film as we speak. I would do that. I would do it right after this one. But it's writing reviews, doing podcasts. It's just that's my everyday, my week. You know what I'm saying? Basically, my year has always been just doing podcasts and writing reviews and just everyday life, working and all that stuff. So yeah, I am living a pretty hectic life at the moment.
I can see that, man. And like you said, it's not like you also work just like me. We have normal jobs too. This is something we do for fun on the side, and we try to make money on. And man, you are killing it. And growing up myself, I grew up in a video store, and right next door, my cousin Tim owned a Tim's Cards and Comics. So I was always over there flipping through the comics and stuff when my parents were busy at the video store. And huge appreciation for comic books. So would you say that your love started off with horror movies or with comic books first?
It was definitely comics. I remember still to this day, I'm a huge fan of comics. Loved everything from Batman, Superman, X-Men, all that kind of thing. Superman is still my all-time favorite superhero. I know that's not everyone's he's not everyone's cup of tea because he's considered corny to a lot of people. I disagree, but definitely comics was just my thing. And I think it really shaped the way I look at movies, from a visual standpoint. I really like stuff done with incredible visuals that really capture my my attention. And I got to give it to the comic books. You know what I'm saying? Just flipping through those pages of the incredible artwork and all that stuff. So yeah. Definitely comic books is where my love of all things visual started.
See, and I got to agree with you, man. I grew up, I watched my first horror movie at a young age, but I really gravitated towards comics first. And January 1993, my mom let me skip school so I could get the final issue of The Death of Superman. And I still have it, the one that comes with the poster and the newspaper clippings and all that. And
I still have mine.
I remember I was like, I remember just being like, man, I'm going to save this. It's going to be worth so much money. Then we had the funeral for a friend, and then he came back, and I was like, shit.
Yeah, right.
Worth nothing.
Yeah, right.
But
Most definitely.
see, and it's funny when it comes to film, I've always been more of a Marvel person, but when it comes to comics, I was always more DC. For me, I always felt like when it came to the comic books, Marvel was always like your brighter, more childlike type of superheroes, where DC was always that more grungy, dark, dirty type of superhero. So I think I always gravitated towards that a little more. And my favorite, like my absolute all-time favorite graphic novel of all time is the DC Identity Crisis. I think Identity Crisis is just a phenomenal piece of art. Have you read Identity Crisis?
I believe so. Yeah. The not for a while, but I read it when it first came out.
Yeah, it's so dope. And man, we're gonna have to get together sometime and talk about comic books too, because I think we could have a good time with that, because I'm such a huge fan of comics as well. I just think it's more healthy to keep your all your hobbies. You know, you got to have a wide array, or else you're gonna go crazy if you're just focusing on one all the time. And it's really cool to be able to talk comics with you, man. I can't wait until we can actually dive deeper into that. Saturday morning cartoons. I got to talk about this. What were your Saturday morning cartoons?
I was always like, it's hard to pinpoint which one is my favorite one, because I always go back and forth. If I had to pick one though, it would definitely be the real Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
I'm a huge Ghostbusters guy. I was basically a Ghostbuster myself. I had wonderful parents who recognized that, and they got me anything Ghostbusters related. All the toys. I remember I was Egon for like a couple of Halloweens. Like I had all the, like, the merchandise, T-shirts, the backpacks, and all that stuff. I had Ghostbusters bed sheets, underwear. I was just full on Ghostbusters. I still watch the cartoon to this day every now and then, because the YouTube channel have been posting episodes from the real Ghostbusters series. So like every now and then I go in there and I was like, oh, it was a damn fine cartoon, like
it was.
Like you rewatch a lot of cartoons and you realize this is some silly shit, but Ghostbusters is a damn fine cartoon. Also Thundercats, He-Man.
Masters of the Universe, man.
Right, yeah, that goes to my love of swords. I was a huge fan of like swords, so Thundercats and He-Man were just my thing. I love all that. And I will also say Batman the Animated Series, which is to in my opinion the best iteration of Batman ever made, is that animated series. And X-Men, the X-Men the Animated Series. And those are like my top 5, because it's hard for me to pick just one, because those are also glorious Saturday morning cartoons. But if I had to pick one, it would be the real Ghostbusters.
See, and I'm so excited for the new film coming out. Like, it's just something that people can shit on it, whatever they want, but it's just like the big problem I had with the female casted Ghostbusters had nothing to do with the female cast, but I've always said since the beginning of time, and I'll die on this hill, that Ghostbusters is a horror movie.
Yes.
If you take out that Saturday Night Live cast that they had, it's a total horror flick. The reason I wasn't as big on Ghostbusters 2 or the female casted reboot, there was no real horror elements to it. I mean, Ghostbusters 2 had a little bit here and there. But then the female casted was just complete comedy. They did a great job, but it just didn't hold up as a Ghostbusters film to me. And for the scene of the new one, they're bringing back those horror elements. So I'm very excited to see how they do this. It's something I've been looking forward to for a long time.
No, that I 100% agree on that. Where it's like the comedy was funny, but the horror was serious and scary. Like I remember vividly being just completely scared by the scene in the original Ghostbusters when Dana starts levitating off the bed, and and he's like, "Please come down," and she like growls at him. I always, like, as a kid, I was always terrified in that scene. Even in Ghostbusters 2, like you said, it's a little bit more sillier than the first one, but it still has some scary scenes in there, like when Janosch comes in. I mean, it's a silly image with him and the as the nanny, but it's still it's still a little terrifying too. Like I remember vividly, my parents picked me up from kindergarten to take me to see it. I remember vividly too. They took me to 82nd Street in Manhattan, the theater, to see it. And I remember being scared, like when that scene came up, like when Janosch came with the carriage and all that stuff. I was terrified by that scene. And so I definitely agree with you that there. The problem I had with the 2016 one is that everything was silly. You know, yeah, and it didn't take any of the horror elements seriously, and I was kind of disappointed by that. You know, I was hoping it would harken back to the original, where like the comedy's funny, but the horror is scary. So I'm
What
hoping
about
like
when
this
Dana's
one.
sitting on that chair, man, and
Oh
like that
yeah,
arms start coming up and grabbing her face, and then it pulls her back into the bedroom? Like,
yes,
oh, that scared me so bad.
yeah, that was a really terrifying scene.
Yeah. So man, we know that right now you have a fuck ton on your plate with all the podcasts and the writings that you do. But for a little bit, Rob, I want to forget about all that and I want to go back to the past. And I want to talk about what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie, and your first horror movie was.
There's a little discrepancy, which I'll go into a little bit. So my thought was my first horror movie was Halloween 5. And speaking to my dad, he was like, no, he said it was that voodoo movie. And I was like, which one? And in trying to describe it, I got the gist that he was trying to say the serpent and the rainbow. And I was like, oh, I thought I saw that after. He was like, no, it's before. And I was like, okay. So I remember telling you that. And then I spoke to my mother, who said, like, no, you were right the first time, because why technically you can say that the serpent and the rainbow was the first horror movie you laid eyes upon. You never watched the whole thing because you wandered into the room while he was watching it. You watched it for like 5, 10 minutes, and then you left because you were scared. And Halloween 5 is officially the first horror movie I saw, because we all actually went to the theater to see Halloween 5, and there I watched the whole thing because I had no choice because we were in the theater.
Right.
There was nowhere to go. So
And it's funny how that works, because going to see Halloween 5, which had to be a really fun movie theater experience. And do you remember who you went with to see it in the cinema?
it was my parents. My parents. What's funny enough is that they're not the biggest horror fans in the world. My parents, particularly my mom, like she doesn't like them, but they are fans of the Halloween series.
Okay.
They do like the Halloween movies. They like the story, and like they like to keep up with it. If you can call it a story, because everything's so hackneyed now, and just twisted, and just they have multiple timelines, and like who knows where is what now.
Right.
Yeah, so they always been fans of the Halloween series, and I know they really like part 4, and I love part 4. So they were, they wanted to see it. And I remember vividly being in the lobby and seeing the poster, like in the display, and then just being in the theater. I actually very vividly, I was 5 years old when this came out, Halloween 5, but I vividly remember that screening, like everything from the beginning all the way to the end. So and I remember just being like, oh my god, I'm so scared, of this movie.
Right.
So it's on revisits where I'm just like, oh right.
And it's funny because look, I'm a supporter of Halloween 5. I think it's because it is a nostalgia thing, because growing up, I didn't dig Michael Myers too much. To me, he was white bread. He was fucking boring, like stabby, stabby, stabby. You got Jason, you got Freddy that are all, they're super innovative with their kills. And then you got Michael that's just stabby, stabby. So 5 is one that I watched a lot. And I think it's because I had a crush on Jamie Lloyd, Danielle Harris, as a little boy. So, but even though I'm a defender of this movie, it does have moments like this.
All clear. Nothing above, nothing below.
Now, when you have cops walking onto the scene with fucking clown music, it is hard to take something like that seriously. So, with a movie that is this hot and cold, there are people that love this movie. There are people that absolutely despise this movie, but it is iconic. I know. We'll get there. Which scene would you say it was that affected you the most from Halloween 5?
Definitely what I would say is the best scene in the movie is that the laundry chute sequence. That laundry chute sequence is definitely the best sequence in the movie, because it's the one that I think is actually suspenseful and scary. I remember really that one too. Like everybody in the theater was screaming. Um, just like, as she's trying to climb back up, as Mike was reaching up for her and then stabbing through. Like, yeah, that one I remember being particularly wowed by that one and thinking like, oh, this is really well done. And then revisits, because I don't revisit this movie often because I don't like it. It's I was just like, wow, that was really the only sequence where, but I did rewatch this last night for the purposes of this discussion. And I also thought,
I'm sorry I put you through that.
It's all good. It's all good. You got to do what you got to do, right? I did think the scene where he chases Jamie through the field with the car was also a nice scene, a really good suspenseful scene. That one was definitely like really well done. And then, but other than that,
and you're talking about the laundry chute scene, and I didn't realize till I was older and I was watching special features. Daniel Harris was really in there, and he was really stabbing through with a knife.
yes.
Like it was a real dangerous situation, and to me, it makes that scene that much more terrifying.
Yeah,
because that even though it's acting and everybody on set is gracious and kind and fun, in that moment that little girl had to be terrified. Something could go wrong, and I couldn't imagine. I have 2 little girls. Watching my daughter in that situation as a parent, obviously parents have to be on set. Watching my daughter go through that and the fear that I would feel. So I think that really amps up the horror of this scene, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, most definitely, and also due to the fact that Daniel Harris is just acting her ass off in that scene throughout the whole movie. Like
Yeah.
she really is the best thing about the movie. Like I'll say a whole lot of shit about this, but I got to give credit to Daniel Harris because for being that young,
Yep.
in a horror movie, she's really giving it her all, and she's just absolutely incredible in it. She was incredible in part 4, and she's incredible in this one. So yeah, she's definitely she's the one that amps up that scene, through those blood curdling screams that she's giving. It's just it really does. All those elements make for just a really really good sequence.
And you talk about, Daniel Hirsch, she's a mute in this movie, but at the beginning you have her sitting up in the hospital bed and doing that scream, and just the look on her face, man, like you said, like you feel that intensity when you're watching her do this scene. So I do agree with you. Like I said, I wouldn't say I'm like diehard Halloween 5. It's towards the bottom of my ranking, but I like it more than most do. And like I said, I think that's just nostalgia. It's the one I watch the most. But if you take the nostalgia off it's like a silver plated turd. If you take that cover off, there's a whole lot of smell underneath. So I definitely get that aspect of it too. With kind of do like how there are some decent kills in this movie, however, and kills is something that we always gravitate towards. What would you say your favorite kill from Halloween 5 is?
Oh, definitely the Mike the boyfriend. Because Mike the boyfriend is an incredible fucking douchebag, and I love it when he gets killed. But it also, like, I like the Mike just puts a garden tool in his face. I like shit like that. I like just those like really gratuitous kills. That's the one I particularly like the most, is when he kills Mike. It's just a funny sequence because I was rewatching it and I was like, this guy is such a dick for no reason. Like, why is he so angry? Like, he's just angry for no reason whatsoever. He's just pissed off. And then
Right.
and then Michael comes and fucks with his car, and then he's like, he thinks he's gonna be like all tough with him. Okay, asshole, do you want to play? And Mike just was like, no. Take that.
It just gets him right in the face. That's my favorite too. And like you said, just because he's such an unnecessary douchebag, he reminds me of the shitty boyfriend in Freddy vs. Jason that Jason ends up folding in the bed and stabbing repeatedly with the machete. Like, that's who he reminds me of. Like, you're just an unnecessary douchebag that they wrote in real quick just to kill you and make everybody in the crowd happy.
Yeah. They do that a lot in slasher movies, and I appreciate that. But I hate when they make the douchebag last a little too long. It's just like, oh, kill
I
him
know.
already. Why is he alive for so long? So
Right.
when
We've hated this guy since Act 1, man. Come on.
yeah. So when they put him in there and they get him out of there 5 minutes later, I'm like, thank you. You know?
So we talked, Rob, about your first horror movie and how that affected you. But here for a minute, I want to go scream on you. And my little buddy Ghostface has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Rob? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
Oh, definitely the original Nightmare on Elm Street. The original Nightmare on Elm Street is tops for me. It's one of my default movies, like, you know, that where there's nothing to watch and you can't think of anything, and you know you have that movie where it's just like it's always reliable. You can put it on, watch it whenever. It's definitely Nightmare on Elm Street. Although I have a lot, but Nightmare on Elm Street is number one.
It's the closest to a perfect horror movie you can possibly get.
It's absolutely perfect. I think it's
for repeat viewers.
Yeah.
For the repeat viewers, I'm sorry you have to hear this again, but if you take out the last 5 minutes with that dumb fucking Freddy car and the mom getting pulled back in through the window, it's the perfect movie. Like, it's literally the perfect horror movie for the budget they had, the effects they had, the kills in that movie. Like I said, there's 4 kills essentially, and they're all fucking memorable. And I fucking adore that movie. I'm with you. I love that movie so much.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because the last 5 minutes were not Craven's fault. So
I know.
Fucking Bob Shea and his bullshit. you know, like, yeah, we gotta have an open ending, and he's like, I don't want to. And it's like, oh, whatever, dude, whatever. You want your open ending? Here. And I think he purposely made it shitty, just, you know, in hopes that they wouldn't use it, but they did. So whatever.
You know what the funniest part about that is? They left the ending open and did fucking nothing with it in Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Like, they made their own story anyway, which is like the ultimate slap in the fucking face, man.
Yeah, most definitely. It's just like, oh god. And then it's like you're gonna do that ending, and it's like, what, did you guys not watch Phantasm to see that they ended it almost the exact same way? You know, and Phantasm to me is one of my all-time favorite endings. So it's just like, to do something like similar and as poorly as you did with that one is just like, oh god, what the fuck, dude? You know?
I completely agree, because I love Phantasm. The Dark Man and his sphere haunted my fucking dreams as a kid, dude. So I completely get what you're saying there too. Well, I got 2 more questions for you, but since we are talking about a franchise, I always ask the same question. With Halloween 5, I know the answer, but I gotta ask, is this your favorite film in the franchise? If not, which one is?
I will say this one is my least favorite. It is at the very bottom. I consider this one the worst of the series. But favorite, it's hard because I always give the first one the dub, the number 1 spot, because, you know, it's just it's John Carpenter's Halloween. It's, you know, it's tops. You know, it basically, you know, started the slasher boom, which is out of the horror genre. Those my one of my 2 favorite types of horror movies are slashers and monster movies, particularly werewolf movies. So I mean, we wouldn't have that slasher boom without Halloween. I mean, there were obviously movies before it, you know, Black Christmas, and all that stuff, Bay of Blood. But it's like, when Halloween came out, it took all those things and, like, you know, put all those elements that you found in the previous movies and put them in a blender and just gave you what the right slasher. I won't say perfect, because I think the perfect American slasher is The Burning, but Halloween got everything right. It took all those elements and it got it right. So I always give it the dub, like the top spot. But I truly love Halloween 4. Halloween 4, I think, I mean, it does essentially the same thing Halloween does, but it does it in such an efficient manner. I think Dwight Little did an incredible job bringing back the series, you know, like, you know, because they wanted to bring Michael Myers back. And everything he did there was just, it was like Halloween on steroids, you know. It was just completely efficient slasher movie with a great final girl and Rachel, was one of my biggest pet peeves of this movie, is what they do to Rachel in it.
Treat her
and
like
which
a
is
fucking idiot, man.
yeah, it's unfucking forgivable in my eyes. And it's really tense a lot of the times. The kills are great, and it has that bone chilling ending in part 4 when Jamie's revealed, like, now she's, like, the killer, and then this one comes and does fucking nothing with it. But so I always go back and forth. Like, days are like, Halloween, and then the other days Halloween 4. But right now I'll give it to Halloween. Like, Halloween is just, tops right now. But like, if you probably ask me tomorrow, I'll probably say Halloween 4. So it's just like, it's that ever alternation between the two of them. Halloween
And the
4.
funny thing
Halloween.
is, those are both the official start of their own little franchise, like their own timeline. So, the beginning of the timelines is where it really, and I agree with you. My favorite one, however, even though I get a lot of shit for it, my favorite Halloween film is Halloween H2O. I fucking love it. I think it's so much fun. I
love H2O. I love H2O. Like, I know Candy's not a fan of it. She makes that clear. Shout out to Candy, by the way.
Love her.
But
love Candy so much.
Candy's one of my dearest friends. I love that woman. But we definitely disagree on H2O. I love H2O. My buddy Patrick, we talk about it all the time, how much we love H2O, specifically because I like the way it comes full circle. Because it's obviously in the tradition of Scream H2O, but Scream wouldn't exist without Halloween.
Right.
Without Halloween there is no Scream, but without Scream there is no H2O. So it comes. It's like a full circle of slasher dome. You know what I'm saying? And I love that. Like, it's just that one big circle loop, and I just think it's just really well done. I like the way Steve Miner went back to the basics of the original, where it's just more about suspense scares than it is about the blood and the gore. I mean, I love blood and gore as much as the next person, but I love that it's more focused on the suspense of it than the scares of it. And I really do enjoy H2O a lot.
Well, and two things about H2O. One, I think that's the more realistic route that Laurie Strode, Carrie Tate would have taken, is going, into hiding and all that, than becoming a recluse and all that. And two, something to your credit that you just brought up with Halloween and Scream. It's so funny to me that in Scream, they're watching Halloween on the couch. And in Halloween H2O, they're watching Scream 2 in the dorm room. What's funny is, in H2O, if they would have been watching Scream, they would have been watching Randy talk about Laurie Strode on TV, like in a whole full circle, you know what I mean? Like, so it's really funny to me how that all played out. But so my last question for you, my friend, we always end these with a skull count. Now, hold on, hear me out. We're not being critics of Halloween 5 here. We're not judging it on shitty cop noises or ruining Final Girls. What we're doing is just judging this movie strictly on how much it affected you the first time you watched it. So 0 skulls being the worst, 5 being the best. You can use half and quarter skulls. What would your ranking of Halloween 5 be?
If I'm going the first time I watched it, it would probably be 5, because being a 5-year-old kid, watching a horror movie, and watching Michael Myers, and the theater experience is a really thing. Like, a theater experience could really shape how you feel about a movie. And when 100%. People are into a movie, like, it really it really helps the vibe of it. So, like, everybody was into it and screaming and scared and all that stuff. And I remember being in the theater just like, oh my God, scared of myself. So if I'm going on that initial theater experience, I would give it a 5, because
Absolutely.
it definitely, I thought it was like the craziest, scariest thing ever when I first saw it, but I'm 5, so what the fuck do I know?
Man, Rob, I appreciate you coming on here so much. And I do want to remind everybody, I said it at the top of the show, I said it in the middle, and I'm going to say it again because I'm going to go a first, second, and third act on you here. All of his links are down here in the description, as well as the links to the podcast. So you should be checking these out because the guy is very knowledgeable, not just about horror, but about cinema in general. If you could take Rob Van Dam, Wolverine, and Freddy Krueger, put them all together, you got this guy's podcast episode. So make sure that you're checking out all the work he does, because even throughout quarantine, I know we're starting to get back to real life now, but we got to remember that while we were shut down, podcasts, indie films, they're what kept us going. So don't forget about them now that we're back in the real world, because we're also out here pushing as hard as we have been before. And this is one of the guys that works his ass off on everything he does. So make sure you're showing him some love. Click these links down here in the description. Don't go anywhere, Rob. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, as always, keep talking horror. Stay what you are. And we'll see you guys soon.